A mechanic thought hard work alone would make him shine, but life had a different lesson waiting. This is the story of Jacob, a mechanic whose journey teaches us that true worth isn't about being noticed, but about how steadily you shine. In a busy little town filled with the sound of honking cars and humming engines lived a boy named Jacob. He loved machines, the smell of gasoline, the shine of tools, and the sounds of engines. It all thrilled him. While other kids played cricket, Jacob sat near the local garage, watching cars being fixed like puzzles coming to life. When he turned 18, he began working at Star Auto Garage, a small but well-known workshop at the edge of town. His teacher, old Mr. David, was a wise mechanic at Star Auto Garage. Everyone said there was no car Mr. David couldn't fix, even the ones others had given up on. Mr. David often said, "Jacob, talk less, observe more, and always keep learning. Fixing cars takes skill, but fixing mistakes takes wisdom." Jacob listened. He learned how engines breathed, how gears talked to each other, and how every bolt had its own story. He stayed after hours, polishing tools, cleaning carburetors, and helping customers who couldn't afford much. Years passed. Mr. David grew older and slower. Before retiring, he handed Jacob his favorite wrench and said, "Remember, skill keeps your job running, but wisdom keeps your life running." Jacob nodded, though he didn't yet understand the full meaning. 10 years later, Jacob had become one of the best mechanics in the town. People said, "If Jacob fixed your car, it'll run smoother than new." But even with all that, Jacob wasn't happy. Younger workers who were loud, talkative, and less skilled were getting promotions. They managed new branches and earned more money, while Jacob worked quietly in the corner, tightening bolts and expecting someone to notice his work. One evening, he visited old Mr. David, who now spent his days sitting by his porch, fixing old radios for fun. Mr. David looked up and smiled. "You look like a man carrying a heavy wrench in his heart. What's wrong, Jacob?" Jacob sighed. "Master, I've done everything you taught me. I work hard, stay humble, and know every inch of a car. But still, others move ahead while I remain stuck. Why?" Mr. David thought for a while, then said, "Take a few days off." Jacob blinked. "Few days off? I haven't missed a single day in years." "Exactly," Mr. David said with a wink. "Try it once." So Jacob took few days off. He took enough rest, visited his friends and relatives, went to the park, and watched kids fly kites, something he hadn't done for a long time. When he returned to the garage, the manager called him in. "Jacob, last few days were a disaster. No one knew how to handle the engine problem on the delivery truck and Mr. Leo's old Honda. The whole schedule was delayed and many customers were disappointed. We need you here all the time. You're being promoted to senior mechanic." Jacob's face lit up with pride. Mr. David was right, he thought. From that day on, whenever Jacob felt unappreciated, he took a day off. And like magic, every time he returned, things got better. A new raise, more respect, more attention. He began to feel proud of his clever trick. Few months passed by until one morning, he arrived at the garage and found his access card didn't work. He ran to the manager's office. "Sir, there must be a mistake." The manager sighed. "Jacob, you're one of the best mechanics we've ever had, but lately we can't rely on you. You are not consistent. We've hired someone who's always here, someone who we can count on." Jacob's heart sank. The world he knew, once alive with engines and humming cars, now sat still, as if someone had quietly switched off the transmission. He rushed back to Mr. David's house, confusion and carrying the weight of his thoughts and disappointment. "Mr. David," he cried, "I did what you told me. I took few days off and it worked initially, but now I have lost my job." Mr. David put down his radio and screwdriver and looked at him kindly. He said softly, "You learned the first half of the lesson, but not the second." Jacob looked puzzled. "The second?" Mr. David held up a small headlight bulb from an old car. "See this light? When it shines every night, people forget it's even there. They take its glow for granted. But when it suddenly goes out, they realize how much they depended on it." Jacob nodded slowly. "That's what I did. I made them notice me by being absent for a few days." "Yes," Mr. David said. "But what happens if a headlight keeps going out again and again?" Jacob looked at the bulb and sighed. "People replace it." Mr. David smiled. "Exactly. A reliable light doesn't need to flicker to be valued. It just needs to shine steadily. Not for attention, but because that's its purpose." He added, "Jacob, don't let people take you for granted. But also, don't dim your light every now and then, just to test if they notice. Keep doing good work because it's who you are. The world always finds its way back to steady lights." That night, as Jacob watched headlights cut through the dark, he finally understood. The next morning, he returned to the garage with humility and apologized. The owner, moved by his sincerity, welcomed him back. From that day on, Jacob worked not for recognition, but with a quiet grace that came from knowing who he was. His light, once flickering for attention, now glowed with the quiet dignity of purpose. In our lives, we all have that one mentor whose guidance shapes us. Someone who shows us the right path when everything feels uncertain. It could be a teacher who believed in you, a guru who inspired you, a friend who stood by you, a spouse who encouraged you, or even a parent whose wisdom still guides your steps. So tell us, who is the mentor in your life? Share your story in the comments. We would love to hear how their guidance has helped you in your life.